Right, wait 10 seconds. Road mic, and I have audio here signal. So, all right, hey, so boom, shakalaka.
Do that again.
I'm Jason.
We forgot to hook up the doll. We did. Thank you guys for joining us. There we are. Thank you guys. All right, Tammy, thank you for catching that for us. I did. I forgot to hook up the doll. So once again, shout out to our listeners and followers right here on YouTube for catching that. So thank you guys. I really do appreciate it.
We would have done that for an entire hour. No one said anything.
Thank you to our Monday crew. Thank you to everyone who consumes our content. Our audio only is going strong. It's our oldest content. It's been around for a little over 3 years now, and we are multinational, international.
We're everywhere that you want us to be.
You band, brother.
Including TikToks.
Are we adults yet?
We have exclusive content over on TikTok. If you guys haven't followed us over there, make your way over to GenX or We Adult Shit on TikTok, Instagram. Our Instagram's lagging. Don't go to there. It's like the kid that we forgot about. We forgot a kid. We Joe dirted that shit. Yeah.
It's not in the loop.
IG. I mean, we're good on Facebook. TikTok's going really well. And then of course, our YouTube is growing. We lost a subscriber. That's where we are.
Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah.
Who was that?
Yeah. If you're
we
watching,
want to know why.
if you want to, yeah. Why do
You
people
left
just
without even leaving
you
a
can't
comment?
just leave it subscribed? I mean, we're you can't just like not watch us.
Right.
I mean, do you not want to?
Once you just subscribed, it was.
I was like, well. So what kind of decision did they have to make to go? You know what? I'm just gonna. I can't do it. Yeah. I don't want you in my feed.
Right.
I'm done.
Like, I don't know, dude.
Over what? What did we post last?
What did we
Metallica?
do?
Who the fuck hates Metallica, bro? Stupid. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in and checking us out. I want to give a shout out and an introduction to our friend from high school, Branden. Branden, how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing good. It's great to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Hell yeah.
It was really cool that we have our own picture from high school. It's just me and Branden in that picture. Shout out to Angela Cardoza who took that picture and for keeping it around all these years. I appreciate that. And I think if you look at that picture, there's the back of somebody's head. I'm gonna guess that's Rochelle Pratt. That's my guess. If anybody, Ange, if you ever see this, or maybe I'll text you after the show. But if we know who that is,
Right,
that's my guess.
Who is that?
That's my.
All I know is that just brings back fond memories of that jean jacket. I think I wear that thing everywhere.
The amount of acid wash in that
Acid
picture
wash, right?
is illegal.
Oh.
So Branden's here today. What we're going to do today, folks, is that we have a list of things. You know, the title is Did Gen X Have It That Hard? What we're doing today, Branden has kids in high school. My middle kids just left high school. And of course, all three of us went to high school together and graduated together. So we're going to basically walk back through some of the shenanigans that we did in high school, talk about what Branden's kids and what my kids are doing in high school, what things just simply don't exist anymore, what things exist now that didn't then, and just kind of the value shift or culture shift. You're going to see that my kids didn't really follow my footsteps in high school, and I think Branden has the same kind of story, right?
Probably, yeah. Just
yeah.
about,
So kick back, hang out, and let me see, where's my outline here? Righty then. Oh, some of the things that we did back in the day that were kind of standard, right? We thought we were kind of wild. We snuck out, right? Shoulder tapping. Do they even shoulder tap anymore?
Certain they do.
Recording music from the radio. That's where we got our music from. We recorded it from the radio. We never got a perfect recording. It was always had the DJ in it, or Casey Kasem's voice. That was golden.
And you had to hope you got it just at the right
and hope
moment.
the guy didn't just, start talking at the end
over
of the
whole
song.
intro. Yeah.
Nothing more annoying.
Cut it out early, right? Our bikes were everything. That had a huge part of our independence. Right?
Skateboard.
It was we had reliable transportation, skateboards, right? My boundaries were much larger as a kid. When I remember my mom saying we moved in from one house over to it's 2 blocks away, and I had my bike. She says, you can't cross that big road. It was Union, Yosemite, and Main Street. And back then it didn't have the bypass in really. It was it was Manteca shit, right? So anyways, I had this 2 square miles of fucking neighborhood.
But there was so much going on in those 2 square miles.
All of my friends lived in that 2 square miles because I lived right next to our
and
school.
everyone was outside because our parents kicked us out and said, don't come back.
Yep. I actually had somebody ask me once, did you really have to drink from the hose? Yes. because we got kicked out in the morning.
That's where the water
where the
is.
water
Yeah.
was. We didn't have a bottle of water every
Fucking
5
bottled
feet,
water.
And yeah, I remember making fun of people when they.
I
bottled
made
water
fun
came
of
out
Danny-
in the early '90s.
Yeah, Danny Belcher. We were he came over and got me one day. We're cruising around. We're gonna go do cruising around stuff, and he's like, "I have to stop at the store, get something to drink." I'm like, "All right." We go in the store, and I gotta get some water. And I remember like honestly teasing him
Evian?
for that. I'm like, water's free. That was my whole
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
Because no, but this tastes better. I go, it's water. And
Yeah.
I didn't understand that water does taste different. Absolutely
But
tastes
He was
different.
ahead of his time.
But yes, kids, we actually did drink from the hose.
Oh yeah.
It's not a big deal.
We were fine. We grew up fine.
Our hoses and the faucet had
Right.
bright colored rings around
Right.
it all the time because that's how we filled up our water balloons. And
Right.
they would pop and leave the
Yeah.
ring on
Ring
there.
on there, right?
Not only did we drink from the hose, we would capture it in little bombs and throw it at each other, or water hose
That
fight.
faucet was multifunctional.
It was everything. You know what? Me and my daughter, we started doing the wake up challenge. I started this the other day. It was a weekend. It was kind of early, and I was just tired, and I had to wake up fast. And coffee was brewing. I went and woke her up. I said, "Let's go do the wake up challenge." She's like, "What's that? What's that?" We went outside, and I said, "Okay, now stand back to back. Stand back to back." She stood back to back and had the hose and just started spraying it straight up in the air. Do this. I said, "First one to move loses, or something, or the last one to stay wins, right?" And she's like, we're just spraying it, getting all wet, cold.
Neighbors are
and
loving
excited.
it.
Yeah, it's like 7. The sun was way up. You
That's
know what I
awesome.
mean? But we did the
That's
wake up
awesome.
challenge. You know what I mean? That shit was fun.
Mhm.
So, our bikes were everything. So back to the bikes, right? We got around, and that's how we knew who was where, right?
Right.
Their bikes
Yeah.
were at the store, parked out in front of 7-Eleven. We knew they were there playing video
Or in
games
someone's
or
front
whatever.
yard. Yeah.
Piled in somebody's front yard. You know what I mean? First thing I did was take the chain guard off, right? Take all the sissy pads off.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
And I've always wanted
Reflectors.
reflectors. I've always wanted like a gooseneck so I could put the gooseneck pad on. I would do
Right.
that,
Yeah.
right? Always wanted like the mongoose or the Haro
Right.
or
Never
the
had
cool
one.
BM. No, I mean, I appreciate the bike I had, you know what I mean? But it wasn't a fancy bike.
My dad bought me my bike from the fruit stand on 120. For some reason, they sold fruit and bikes.
Bikes. Yeah. Yeah, and we didn't have helmets.
No helmets.
No helmets.
They didn't even exist.
There wasn't a lot of safety. And
I think
There was always that one odd kid, every so often that had, wear the bike helmet and stuff. But for the most of us, we weren't,
They had
Yeah.
racing helmets, but I don't think regular just recreational safety bike helmets
No.
existed
No.
when we were like in elementary
I
school.
don't think so. Yeah.
no
'Cause we
car
didn't-
seat.
We didn't have plastic
We
really.
didn't grow up in car seats.
Right.
No.
All those safety things were not invented yet.
My kids drink water and they have water refill faucets or
Stations, yeah.
fountains
Yeah.
at school now, right? And I've seen some schools has a little counter on it how many bottles it's filled or it's how many
Right.
gallons
Yeah.
of water, whatever the math
How many
it's doing.
plastic bottles you're saving?
Yeah.
That's
what
the
it is.
number, right? Kind of like that shit, right? So
It's still
Anyways.
kinda lame, though.
from sneaking out to shoulder tapping to all these fun things that I know at least I did growing up, my kids didn't seem to do that. And there's lots of I don't know, factors or reasons. Maybe it's the way I parent, maybe it's the things I allow. I don't allow like open drinking, but you know what I mean? Because addiction's kind of ugly in my family. So I'm kind of always have an eye on that kind of stuff. But but there's a lot of normal people in the family too, right? So it's kind of, whatever happens, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's always been kind of open in the house. But my kids never had, they would just leave. They would just go. They would just jump in their car and just, I'm coming back. And school, it was always kind of a deal like, had to be home by 11, and
Right.
there's no reason to be out later. There's no reason to be out later, right? Pandemic hits. Why do I have to be home at 11? Well,
there's nothing.
fuck.
There's nothing to do.
Because I know what happens after 11 o'clock.
Right.
Right? Drugs.
Right.
Period.
Was it they always said, nothing good happens after midnight.
Yeah,
Or-
midnight.
For boys,
That's-
it's drugs.
Yeah.
for drugs.
Yeah.
It's
Chicks.
it's sex or drugs.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky. I've been able to get my daughter, who's 19 now in college, and my son is 16 so far. I've been able to get them through without dealing with that.
Yeah.
And part of it is open communication, but
Right.
and part of it is just luck, honestly.
Yeah.
So I'm no better or worse a parent than anybody else. I just,
No.
we got lucky and stuff. Had a lot of good role models, but yeah, We got lucky there. So,
Some kids are prone to experiment and some are not.
Yeah.
Like my daughter wasn't really like the experimenter with that stuff
Right.
either, but my son was. He was
Okay.
doing mushrooms and stuff in high school with his friends. But my daughter was like, hell no, I'm not doing that.
Oh,
I gave my daughter a Vicodin one time. When she was in high school, and she was like, people do this for fun. She came back like a half hour later, all jacked up. Gave her half a Vicodin because she had jacked her neck up or something. She came back like a half hour later. Was like, people do this for fun. This is stupid. Slurring her words, all opiates out.
my daughter's first year of college, she had a couple of roommates, and even at a Christian university, it happens. Like my daughter says, you're looking for it, you're going to find it.
Yeah.
She had a couple of roommates that were having some parties, were having stuff over there. And one time, one of the ex-roommates was over there at an extra grand. They call the campus security. Campus security comes over, and the alcohol that they had left. Those two people had left. They had alcohol containers. And so because my daughter was in the apartment at the time, even though she had nothing to do with it, they had to breathalyze everyone in the apartment.
Uh-huh.
So when my daughter's explaining this to us, what happened and stuff, my first thought I told my wife was, well, look at it this way, honey. Our daughter had no idea how a breathalyzer worked. So that's a good sign.
Yeah.
You know?
I seen the video where they handed to the guy or not handed, but to try to put it to his mouth to blow it, and he kind of tries to drink from it. Like,
Right. So yeah. Yeah. But
my kids kind of partied.
Is Saturday school still a thing? Do they still do Saturday school in high school if you
I
get in trouble?
don't know if they do it my kids' school, but I think it is still a thing. I think they still do
Really?
it someplace.
I had to do that a couple times.
Saturday school?
Ripping high Saturday school with Mr. Hall or
I did it once. I just got suspended a lot. They just sent my ass home. Right.
we don't want you here for extra time. We're just gonna send you home.
I even got suspended once in high school, believe it or not. I know it's going to surprise
For what?
a lot of people for fighting.
Who'd you fight?
Freshman year, it was the ag class that they, ripping. They made you take the 9 weeks of ag, and I can't remember
Mr. Carley.
Yeah, I got in a fight with Mr. Carley. Yeah. So and he kept poking at me, kept just being a jerk, and he kept actually physically like poking me and stuff. And I stood up and I clocked him, and I think it surprised everyone in the classroom. So then later on, he came back. It was at lunchtime. I had been in the office all morning, and I'm gonna say right out, I think he took a cheap shot at me. He kind of sucker punched me because I had my hands full of stuff. So he got back at me. So I think we both got suspended. But yeah, so I got suspended for like a day or two or whatever. So
Yeah.
Who was it?
So, I'm trying to remember. I can't remember his name, honestly. I cannot
From our
remember
class?
his name. It was our class. It wasn't one of the guys that we know. I can't remember his name. He
Who would
was
that be?
Hispanic. Raphael, I think that was his name. So, but yeah, so that was my, life of crime in high school there. So I did get suspended at least once. So
I got suspended.
It's a rite of passage at Ripon
I
High.
think so.
Man. You got
I
to get
think so.
suspended
Yeah,
once.
yeah, right.
Shane Cornett. Remember Shane Cornett?
Yes, I remember Shane Cornett. Yeah.
Well, so my half of the story is shout out to Shane. Shane's a good dude. No, this is a funny story. I just kind of threw him under the bus, but you know what? Here's what my half is. I was largely, probably 99.9% responsible for grabbing Coach's keys off of his desk, opening the cage around the soda machine, and then that money box getting dumped all over the floor. People just grabbing money everywhere.
Oh,
like all
I
the
thought
coins.
he was already refilling it. I thought Coach had it open and he was walking back and forth grabbing sodas to fill it up or something.
I don't
No?
know, because I saw a piece about getting the keys off the desk,
Yeah.
and that was the bad part. Well, and then
I
opening
remember
it.
all the guys from our class walking around with pockets full of quarters.
Mhm. So I don't know. So I got kicked out of school for that and had to pay it all back. Right. 5-day suspension for that one.
Wow.
Right. Shane got kicked out of school for that one, for his involvement. Right. He can tell
He
his
was an
story.
accomplice.
He can tell his part of the story, but he also got. But here's the funny part, right? I'm at home, and here's how different my house was from his house, right? I'm home for 5 days. I'm bored. I pick up the phone and I call Shane. I just call him, right?
Right.
His mom answers. Yeah, who's this? Who's Jason? She goes, Jason. She goes, after what happened, do you really think you should be calling here?
Wow.
I went, oh fuck, Shane's in trouble. I got in trouble. I got grounded, but then
That
once
was
my
it.
parents weren't mad anymore, And they got mad again when they had to
right.
write a check for
Right.
fuck, what was that, $85 or something
Back
like
then
that.
in the 80s, that was a lot of
That's a
money.
lot.
That was a
dude.
chunk of money. I was making like $4.25 an hour or something, working for my parents or something. But yeah, I remember how much it was, $85, $125. It wasn't too much.
Right,
but
right.
It was a chunk.
I don't think I grabbed. I was afraid of my dad, so I didn't grab any of that. I was
I
there,
don't-
but I didn't grab any.
I don't think I
quarters.
was there. I heard about it,
Yeah.
but it was one of those things you just you're going to hear about. Much of the school, like, ripping
Yeah,
off.
word
It's a
gets
small
around
ass
pretty
school.
quick.
Right. I think one of the worst things that my kids did, anything like getting in trouble in school, was either just like basic old fighting, and most of the time was fighting each other. But my son, my 21-year-old, he did some crazy shit, like jumping off the second story balcony stairs. Had the stairs went up to a flight, and they level off and go up to the next one, right? That so it wasn't the second story, it's the mid story, wherever it turned and went. You know what I mean? He'd jump off there. Hey guys, everybody, ready? Everyone looking,
Attention grabber.
Right.
and then wonders why he got in trouble, or you know what I mean? He did some shit, spraying milk fucking everywhere, or something through the straw, squeezing the boxes, and milk coming out, and doing sprinkler, doing something with the fuck. I'm like, fuck, kid. So, that's a lot of fun.
Yep.
You were telling me the way you were in high school and the activities or whatever you were involved in is like different, or the
It's
opposite.
polar opposite to me. I was kind of that nerdy kid that was involved in. I was in drama. Did mock trial. I did that kind of stuff. Whereas my son Lucas, he is like the total athlete. He's a 3-sport athlete. He does football. Got promoted to varsity a sophomore year.
Nice.
He done wrestling, some at JV and some at the varsity level.
That's
track
a
and field.
pretty good football team over there at that school too.
We've
Yeah.
actually, we've had some success the last couple of smaller
Yeah.
school, but yeah, he's done that. Track and field. He, this last year, Big Valley for their league won the JV boys won the league title for JV boys, and he was first place overall for shot put stuff. So he's done all these sports. I remember one time I was talking with him, I was joking around. I said, you wouldn't have hung out with me in high school. I said, you were, and it was partly joking because he's a good kid. He has friends all across the spectrum, whether they're his football friends or other sports friends or kids who don't do sports, stuff like that. But it is true. He is totally different than the way I was in high school. I'm not sure where all the athletic ability came from, but he's got it. He's got some pretty good athletic ability. So, what
does he do in track and field?
So he does shot put is his main thing, and then discus, and then he also does occasionally the 100 meters, and then like 4x1 and a relay. He mainly joined track and field because he heard it was a good way to stay conditioned for football and stuff.
Mhm.
So that's why he started doing that. So he's a lineman doing the 100 and 200 meters and 100 meter.
I was going to say,
Whatever,
if he's doing
yeah.
shot, usually you're a 100-meter guy is not also your
Yeah,
shot put
yeah.
guy.
So he
He
does it
seems
mainly
like a
to-
beefcake.
He started doing that to be conditioned. Mainly the running was to stay conditioned, but he found out he really, really he likes discus, but he really loves shot put. So
Discus was my thing. I love
Yeah.
discus. I love doing track and field. Shout out Aaron Morley and Leif Escola. That was my track and field
All right.
crew.
But yeah, so he loves doing that. In fact,
That's
he's
cool.
even considering he's talking about possibly giving up wrestling because he wants to start doing more practice with track and field because
Right.
so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, he definitely is a totally different kid. Even my daughter, she was more of the studious. He's a good student, but she was definitely the one that's getting all the she's got all the cords draped around her graduation and all that
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
She did cheerleading, so that was her sport. She did cheerleading from junior high, so she's an athlete too. But definitely, like I said, definitely totally different from what I was in
Right.
high school. So,
What about mom? How was mom in high school? What was her kind of?
so mom, my wife, she did cheerleading for a
Mhm.
couple years, but then she ended up doing stats. She actually was neighbors with one of the coaches. He taught her how to do stats and stuff. So she transitioned after doing a couple years of cheerleading. She started doing stats, and she liked it because unlike the cheerleaders, she got to ride the bus up with the football players to the away games.
Mhm.
Bugged the cheerleaders to no end, apparently, that she got to do that. So,
Yeah.
but she got stats. She also got taught how to wrap up, wrists and stuff like that.
Oh,
So
right on.
that was her thing. But she was also a good student. She was in the whole ag scene. She ended up going to Cal Poly. She was the girl that was hanging out at the country bars and stuff like that.
Oh,
in
very
college.
cool.
So,
FFA kid.
yes,
Yeah.
FFA and 4-H.
Yeah.
Kind of how she got to go to college was some scholarships and stuff she got there. So, but yeah, she was definitely the ag kid growing up in Half Moon Bay. So,
Okay.
but yeah,
That's nowhere near where we went to
Yeah.
high school.
no, absolutely
So
not.
where'd
We
you meet?
met in. I was actually living in Sacramento. She had moved to Manteca. She had been working for George Perry and Sons.
Okay. No,
Oh, yeah.
She was an ag business major. So before she became a teacher, she was doing that. Got introduced by a mutual friend. So ironically, I'm living in Sacramento. I have to now start coming home every other weekend, you know.
To see this
parents-
girl.
I have to start
Yeah,
coming.
have to.
He said I have to start.
My parents are kind of wondering, like, why all of a sudden I'm coming home to visit.
Yeah,
I'm like, I
yeah.
told them, I'm like,
Mhm.
Bringing laundry.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. So I met her through that, and she was living in Manteca, and then when we got married, we moved to Escalon. So, so we've been married now. It'll be 24 years. in
Nice.
December.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
24
So-
years.
So yeah, but she was a little bit of an athlete, also kind of the studious student person. I'm definitely though into the whole ag scene. So
Okay.
so yeah, the cowboy and the boots and all that good stuff.
Got it.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So
So you have a good hat and you have good boots, right?
I do. I
do,
well,
huh?
well, no, that's the thing. She's not into that so much anymore.
Right.
But for a while there, I did have a decent pair of boots, and
Very cool.
I
You just
think
said
she was-
boots.
Boots. Yeah. So, but,
Love it.
You said it like you got some boots.
You said boots.
I did tell her, I said, we need to get back into, you need to teach me how to line dance. She was like, oh my God. She was, I don't think I know how anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of
That's fun to
trying
watch.
to convince
That's
her.
you're a YouTube
Correct.
video away from relearning
I
how to do all
probably
that.
am. I probably am. So, but
Pick that up. It might be sliding down.
Yeah. there we go. That's better.
It's just
So-
gonna slowly drop. And make
I'll just keep lifting it up. So there we go. But
Who
yeah,
that dude?
so-
That did it to who? Rob.
Yeah,
Rob Ely, huh?
Yeah,
I just kept dropping.
Yeah,
It
he
just
kept
kept
like, chase the mic.
I kind of
Sorry,
realized
Rob.
it was on that we're good. So, but no, yeah. So that was her. She was definitely into the ag scene. That was kind of her big
Very cool.
thing. So
All right. So you and mom have this ag thing. You guys have these kids. These kids are growing up different than you guys in high school.
Yeah.
You know, they're involved in the different side of high school, right? Or different parts of high school,
Right,
right?
right.
Okay.
You didn't play a single sport?
I did like in junior high. I think I did 1 year of flag football and 1 year of basketball in 8th grade, but that was it. It did not in high school. I
You
almost
were a Rapona kid, huh?
Yeah, I went to
Yeah.
Rapona Elementary. I did consider doing wrestling 1 year in high school, and then for one reason or another, it didn't pan out. I just thought that wasn't my area. That just
Oh
wasn't
God, I
something.
hate.
yeah.
You would've had
we
to
do
wrestle Pat
wrestling for
King.
PE.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
had to wrestle Pat.
Or Tony Cardoza.
Nobody wants
Right?
to wrestle those guys.
Gosh, man, it's crazy. So yeah, so definitely wasn't that kind of, that wasn't my thing. But so yeah, like I said, when I say truly, when I'm like trying to figure out where my kids got their athletic ability, I'm not sure. So, probably from their mom, so
Right.
But
sneaking out, sneaking around, things I had to do to sneak,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
I'm not talking like as I got older, but like maybe junior high, still innocent mostly kind of
Right, right,
ages,
yeah.
right? I remember like tricks of like, because we talked about on a couple episodes back that there were like just unwritten rules about calling our friends at nighttime, having the
right,
one house
right,
phone.
right?
Usually 8 o'clock was kind of late, 9 o'clock it was bedtime, and you were not making phone calls
Right,
after
yeah,
Yeah.
9 o'clock. But to sneak a phone call,
right.
do you remember either taking the phone off the wall or picking it up, turning the ringer all the way down, and then putting that phone on a pillow,
A couple of times,
and then putting another pillow over because you already have it planned out? You're going to call at 11:12 or
Yeah.
11:09 because you had to time that shit. You
Right.
right.
just like we'd say,
Parents
like, hey,
asleep.
I'm going to your house, meet me halfway. Okay, I'm leaving now. You leave in 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And we had that shit dialed in. And if I knew where halfway was, and if you weren't anywhere near, I would slow the fuck down. I would not get to halfway first, and I'm not going any further.
Right.
But some of the things we did to sneak, right? Like sneaking the phone calls, all the pre-planning.
Yeah.
Call me at this time. And it was like always the girls, right? It's always the
Right.
girlfriends, whatever. I'm not calling my buddies. There's no reason I need to talk to you after hours. I'm talking to girls.
We
You know
would
what I mean?
sneak out. We would sneak out. Me and Phil would sneak out because I could take the screen off my bedroom
Mhm.
and then sneak out And all we wanted to do was smoke cigarettes. So we couldn't smoke cigarettes in the house. We want to smoke cigarettes out the house. But you also can't just be out walking around and ripping after curfew.
No.
So we would walk around the neighborhood, look for unlocked cars, and just
that's a
sit in
good
someone's
idea.
car and smoke cigarettes at night.
Wow.
Oh, shit. Never got caught either.
Some of the shit that my kids do to sneak was like when they get in trouble, we'd cut their social media, right?
Right.
And they have cell phones, and mom's real good about having parental access or the ability to shut off certain apps or that parental control stuff, right? She's dialed in on that, right? So we'd get alerts, or we would have certain things restricted, so we take away like social medias and things like that. Well, the app would block social media apps, and it would block certain websites if you did that. But what we didn't know, what he learned first was, well, if I can't get to TikTok or Snapchat, it was Snapchat, right? If I can't get to Snapchat app, I can open my browser and go to snapchat.com and log in that way. And I am, right? We're like, how is he still posting? I know how that works, but I didn't think about it, right? But that was and then ghost accounts.
My kid got
other
in trouble
accounts
for that exact same thing.
Blocking us
and
stuff. I'm like, no, you can't block us, or you can't have it. That's not
right.
We kind of told our son, my daughter too, and he's, like I said, good kid, but he is a little younger, and he kind of, like most kids, no matter how good you are, they want to push the boundaries. So basically the rule we have, a little bit old fashioned, was like, hey, that at any time mom and dad can look at your phone and see what you're doing. That's the rule. You want to have the phone. That's the,
you have no privacy in my house.
You have no privacy. Yeah. So at least we knew we could see what he was doing. So he knew at any given time. Now we don't do it a lot. We try, we don't do it, but we do, like, every so often, hey, can I take a look at your phone?
It's an audit. Every once in a while you got to do an audit.
I like that word. It's an audit, man. So that's kind of how we kind of.
You've been randomly selected for an audit.
What was it in Clerks? Something through fear.
Oh gosh, yes.
So the whole sneaking out. Again, the kids were home by 11 or whatever. Their friends were allowed over, and my friends didn't party like I party. And that was the only reason to be out like that, or to meet whatever girlfriend I had at the time, right?
Right.
And so my boys weren't doing that, or we allowed friends over. They couldn't go upstairs, they couldn't go in the bedroom, right? We kind of held it there, but we had kind of an open house, you know what I'm saying? But again, school time. But then when they got to their older years in school, it was pandemic,
right?
And then all they had to do was be present at a table by 8:48 or something late in the morning,
right?
So there's no reason to go to bed by 10 o'clock. There is, but there's not, right?
It's
just not. I stop believing my own bullshit when I tell them, well, it's important to get 14 and a half hours fucking sleep tonight. So you can sit tomorrow in a Zoom meeting.
You can sit there, right?
Oh, yeah. It became harder and harder to enforce that, because it can be harder for us. I was lucky. I actually got to go to the office. In fact, even today, telecommuting works for some people. For me, I have to get away from the house. I'd be too distracted. I know at where I work, they do allow people to telecommute up to a couple of days a week if they want to. They has to be approved within your unit and so forth. But for me, it doesn't work. I get too distracted at home and stuff. I know my wife would not like it, because during COVID, she's a teacher, and they had to teach from home at the beginning. And for the first, couple of months, it was, she used our bedroom as her mobile classroom. So she would, she'd have, the bed was made, everything was perfect in the bedroom. She had her makeup done and her hair done, and everything was great. After a couple months, it's like, okay,
hair up, sweats.
It kind of goes gradual. It's like, she did her hair still, but no makeup. Bed was made, but as long as the laundry basket was away. And then after a while, it was just like, she's wearing a ball cap. She's like, I don't care. They're second graders. They're not gonna, So, but yeah, it became harder and harder as parents to try to say, because there's not all that prep time that you had to get ready for. And it was at the point where parents were like, they got to get rid of this, because we got to get those kids back in, class. But yeah, you're right. There was no more, we got to go to bed at this time. It became harder and harder to do that.
Justify it. And I stopped believing it.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
it was like, it don't make sense, right?
The only
I'm
good thing
so
about it is
glad
at
I
least
didn't
there
have to
was a
do
lot
that,
less
man.
traffic on the way to work in the morning because
I was
still
essential. I was.
Yes,
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
an essential
Yeah,
employee.
I
I even
was
had the
too.
little letter from the county
Yep.
that they gave
We had to
us.
drive around with that in the glove box.
Right.
They gave us those at work. I was like, "This, you got to be kidding me." Dude.
It was cool for like the first couple of weeks. And then it's just like, okay, this is
This is
ridiculous.
dumb.
No one's getting pulled over for driving
So,
to
yeah.
work.
So
Stupid.
It's so dumb.
Shoulder tapping, asking strangers for drugs or alcohol.
never. I can honestly say that wasn't
You never
something
went to Stockton Mariani's
I
and bought
did
weed off a
not.
12-year-old?
I never. I'll be honest here, and again, this is gonna. I don't know if this is going to be, good or just, reiterate how much of a nerd I was, but I never did. I never tried weed. I guess I was never curious enough to try it. It wasn't something that I was with people who were doing it, but I just never tried it myself. So no,
Orchard parties?
again, no, like I said, I was, I didn't get invited to a lot of that stuff. So, I mean,
It
I
was
wasn't
more of an open invite. You just had to
Yeah.
kind of know the spot.
I was
probably
never
could have.
invited.
I did get-
I just
I got-
fucking showed
I got
up.
invited to them a couple of times. I just never,
I get it.
So-
I get it.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I mean,
It's
looking
probably a
back
good
on
thing.
it, I'm like, okay, I guess I'm glad I can honestly tell my kids, well, didn't you do it, Dad? Well, no, actually I didn't. So,
All right.
but I wasn't an angel. I was, after I got out of the home, after I was on my own and stuff, I did go a little, I won't say a little wild, but I did, I was on my own. I was old enough.
You had some college years?
After my college years, I kind of got a little,
Yeah.
I was on my own, living in my own place. I'm like, all right, now I can do whatever I want, knowing, so
Walked around in my underwear all day.
that's right.
Yeah.
So
I did.
yeah.
Wore socks.
Right.
Mhm. So the shoulder tapping was our way of getting alcohol.
Right.
And, a lot of times shoulder tapping was, I guess it's specific for alcohol. That's the term. But
Rapona Market.
it also, it's also kind of like getting drugs or drugs are straight up. They're fucking drugs. Getting like weed, getting drugs from strangers, right? The guy down at the store. I remember a lot of times I never drove in high school, so I always had to find a driver. But going to Stockton in the middle of ditching school, leaving Ripon, going to Stockton, buying weed off a 12-year-old, a group of kids, but the youngest one that came up,
Right.
folds of tinfoil with just Mexican weed in it, right? Give them money, burned them. Give them money, we'd take off and come back to school, and we had weed for the day. You know what I mean? Or for the couple of days. So kids today don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
It's social media. The
Right.
plug.
No, all these
It's the
kids
word,
in
the
school now
plug.
have freaking little vape cartridges. They're smoking
Right.
weed in the bathroom.
They have the vapes,
Ugh.
right? They have, and the drugs of like our high school just aren't popular like the drugs of today's high school, right?
Right.
There's a lot of bars, a lot of Xannies, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Vicodins, a lot of pills.
No one's smoking crack anymore.
No,
No,
they're,
that
not,
was the
Crack,
age
crack
thing.
was
Yeah.
huge when we
Yeah.
were in high school.
they're not blasting lines before a football game.
Right.
Looking back, which is dumb. Good Lord, the game was only an hour long. Fuck. Now I'm up for 3 fucking days. I'm just kidding. Yeah, right. So social media kind of has a big way of making just getting drugs easier.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I don't know, I've never heard of anybody. I don't hang out with high school kids. I guess maybe that's why I don't hear about it. But people like still ask strangers to buy alcohol in front of a store. Is that still a thing? Or
I think the fines and stuff for that are
I
so
think
huge
it's gotten
now.
so
It's pretty out of hand.
prohibitive. Yeah.
how do kids
I'm
in
sure
high
it
school
happens. I'm
get
sure it's
alcohol?
Yeah.
but
Older brothers, older sisters, family,
probably.
siblings, and family
Yeah.
and shit.
I would
Yeah.
imagine probably older
Or somebody's
siblings
cool
probably,
parents.
Yeah.
I would not
Like
buy kids
Philip's
high
mom
school.
would buy us beer when
And
we
I
were
think-
freshmen. We were
yeah.
13 years old, and she would buy us a 12-pack of beer on Friday night.
Yeah, it was cool then. You sat
Yeah.
home and played
Yeah,
games.
because
and-
we would just sit there and listen to Beastie Boys and drink a 12-pack. It was her way of making sure we stayed home.
yeah.
At least you,
'Cause
yeah.
we basically didn't
well,
go
he's at
anywhere.
home doing it. So
Yeah,
it's
we
fine,
would freaking play cards and listen to Beastie Boys. We weren't really making any trouble.
We got our music from the radio,
Yes.
unless we were lucky and had $16.99 and a ride to a record store.
Oh man.
Probably not in our hometown.
Right.
Ripon. Manteca had one.
Unless you listen to the same music as your parents, like you did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Then you had access to my dad's records.
Kind of
Yeah.
made it
But he
easier.
listened to like classic rock. It was rock,
Right,
I guess.
right.
It wasn't even
It wasn't
classic.
yet.
It's classic now.
Metallica is classic rock now.
Right?
But he had like all the southern rock stuff. He had the rock and roll stuff. He had the cool hippie stoner druggy music and
Right.
Beatles and all that
Right.
stuff. He was that kind of stuff. So yeah, fuck yeah, he had the cool stuff, man. A lot of country growing
Yeah.
up. A lot of country growing up.
Were you in band in high school?
I was in junior high,
Yeah.
not in high school actually, but junior high. Yeah. So, but
That's something I always wish I did now. Wish I knew how to play like
yeah,
some horn or a sax or drum or something.
my son did try playing the trombone for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I wish he had stuck with it, just because I hadn't played musical interest as good.
Yeah.
My mom taught piano, so both of my kids did piano and stuff. But
Oh,
yes,
cool.
we actually still have the trombone in our house because the school, for one reason or another, had to cut the music program. And so they have this stuff, and so we have this trombone. It's like, okay, who do we give it back to? Because there's no music program anymore.
Right.
So it's still sitting there. So I don't know. I suppose that one day if he ever gets bored, he might pick it up again. But
Yeah. Right.
we still have a trombone. So
Yeah. It'll be stuff that
That's
he
kinda
wants when he
cool.
gets older.
right, exactly. So.
Have your kids ever had Saturday school? They ever get grounded? Have they ever been circle spanked?
Not circle spanked. He has been grounded. He has been suspended.
Okay.
Actually, even my son. And again, one of those situations where actually he was being bullied one day, and he'd been doing taekwondo for a few years. Was getting pretty good at it. Had this punk that was giving him a hard time, and kid never actually hit him, but he kept like getting in his face and pretending like he was going to hit him and stuff. And finally, Lucas came around with this roundhouse kick and just took his hands out in front of him.
Karate Kid.
Yeah, like didn't hit his face, came within an inch of his face, but knocked the hands away. And this kid just got this look like, oh crap. So he got suspended for one day. And that was one of those things that I wasn't mad at him at all, because I understood the situation. And I understand the school, because now it's like,
It's
the whole zero
stupid
tolerance
now.
thing.
Oh,
Man.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah. So I always
Yeah.
told my kids the same
You
thing.
can't
Yeah.
hit and you can't protect yourself. You're both suspended.
right,
Go.
yeah. So he got suspended for a day. And we basically told him, he
You take
said,
him out
you
to
did
lunch?
everything.
You took the
don't
day off
remember.
work.
I might have, yeah. But I basically told him, I said, you are not in trouble. I said, we're not mad at you. I said, because he had been told, in his karate class, he'd been told, this is for defense only, just like, the karate
Yeah,
kid.
just like Master Schaefer used to tell us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do not use. He goes, I find out you guys are using this to harass anybody, you'll be
Yeah.
out of the class. So he knew he was always afraid of getting in trouble for doing something, but he finally, he defended himself. And so in that instance, I looked at the circumstances, and I think that's the big problem with the whole, zero tolerance, is they don't look at the individual circumstances.
They took judgment away from the
Exactly.
schools.
So I said, you're not in trouble. I said, mom and dad aren't mad at you. I said, you're going to have to spend the day at home. I think one of us, obviously this was like 5th grade. So, back in our day when parents would have let us stay at home by ourselves, but one of us stayed home with them and let them know. I said, I don't want you making a habit of getting in fights.
Of defending yourself.
Don't find reasons.
Oh, so
to
this
defend
wasn't in
yourself,
high
man.
school. He was like a 10-year-old
He was
roundhouse
like-
kick.
Yeah, he
That's
was like 10 or
sick,
11.
dude.
So,
That's so awesome.
so
Very cool.
he remembers it these days. He still remembers something. He hasn't
I'll
done it. in a
never
few
forget
years,
that
but,
shit.
Oh man, and I gotta
He
remember.
probably
I did
wants to
have-
put it on
That's
his
badass.
resume.
Here's the thing, and this
Man,
is
damn shit.
we talked about the the difference between our son and stuff, and I got bullied a lot in junior high and high school, even before, and even though I got in my share of fights as a kid, it was tough. So when my wife is telling me, hey, here's what happened, this was the kid, and when first she mentioned, I'm like, oh yeah, well, that makes sense. But when I found out what he did and stuff, I gotta admit, man, I had that like awesome pride. I'm like, hell yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I'm really proud of that kid. I
Yeah.
was really, really proud of him because he defended himself. He didn't go looking for the trouble,
Yeah.
but he defended
Stand
himself.
up for
Yeah.
yourself.
That was pretty cool. And I think for a
Most of
short
the time,
while
you only
there,
have to do it once.
yeah. Well, for either he kind of got a good reputation as like, dude, you hear what Lucas did?
Yeah, yeah. That's
So
what I mean.
I was like,
Usually,
all
you only
right,
have to
I
do
was
it
okay
You'll
with
once.
never
that.
have to fight
Yeah,
again.
So,
Yep.
but
You do that shit like if you
smack a
plan it
bully.
right,
Yeah.
like in 4th
Yeah,
grade,
so-
that's good.
right,
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
good for the rest of your
1st or
career.
2nd, you might have to do it again.
Right, his
So like
rep was
4th or
cement-
5th grade.
his rep was cemented. So yeah,
Yeah.
so in a good
Mhm.
way. But yeah, I was just like, hey, I can handle my kid getting suspended for one day if I know that he was doing it for
Yeah.
So I was pretty proud of him. So
Right.
yeah.
I would be. That's pretty good. Oh, let's see.
Wait, what's a circle spank? What is that?
That's where basically your parents grab you by the arm
One
and like
arm.
Oh, okay.
and you're
Just
trying to
chase
going
you.
around in a circle.
Okay.
Trying to get the fuck
That
out
would
of
be
the way.
my
Right.
mom. You weren't doing that shit to my dad. You try to
Right,
get away
right,
from my
right,
dad.
right.
He'll
Oh,
start
yeah.
punching.
I never got circle spanked. That's because spanking was like a very controlled, like thought out process in my house.
Yeah.
I didn't get spanked a lot. My parents weren't going around, smack us around there. But the few times we did, man, it was a very controlled, go to your room. My dad actually had a paddle that he made on his like saw in the garage.
Yeah, my dad did that
Crafted
with
a
one of my
paddle, right?
skateboards.
Right. So when we got a spanking, it was a very controlled, very, so you knew like, and that's why my parents didn't have to do it that often, was because we're like, oh man. I remember one time we were in Modesto and I had done something. I was told you're gonna get spanked when you get home. And
That's
so
the fucking
Oh,
worst.
that is
Right,
the
right, right.
worst, dude.
So it's like, why are you driving so
Right,
fast?
right. So here's the
You
thing.
get a fucking red light?
We're driving home and I fall asleep in the car.
Oh, yeah, that's
I-
the move right there.
Right. I wake up as we're hitting the off ramp there and ripping. I'm like, oh crud, my
I'm
heart's
still getting to my ass.
act
whooped.
like
Well,
you're
I'm like,
asleep.
I'm thinking that maybe my dad will forgot. We pull in the driveway.
Maybe my
And here's
dad-
the first thing out of his mouth is go to your room. Like,
I didn't forget.
I'm not getting out of this. So I never got circle spanked, and kind of sometimes almost wish I had, because it would have been over quicker. But but I've seen kids and magazines get circle spanked.
I've been circle swinged.
Yeah,
fucking
only
deserve
Why do
it,
I
I'm
get
sure.
a feeling that was probably more than once?
Yes, I rarely got anything I didn't deserve at one time or another. Whether I got it
Yeah, it
before
was-
I deserved it or after.
Right. So,
You know what I mean? So
and that's another thing about today. It's like now there is just all the people. You can't spank your kids, and here's all the ways you should do it differently. And I'm like, my parents weren't going around beating us, but
no.
spanking was something that was utilized. And
Mhm.
I guess apparently you're not supposed to spank your kids anymore. I did it.
No, you can. I had I'm trying to remember what the circumstances were. We had the sheriffs at our house over one of our kids, and complaining about us or something. I don't remember what happened, but the cop told my wife, like, "Hey, I'm not trying to give you the impression that you can't spank your kid. Just no closed fist.
Right.
Just no closed fist, and you're fine."
He was giving you the
Yeah, he was giving me the
Wink, wink.
He's
nod,
giving you the
nod.
tip. You're good.
how to hit somebody and not leave a mark. I heard a phone book. You can hit him,
If you hit him with the
Yeah,
phone book,
through a phone book.
hit him through a floor, hit him with the phone book. Something.
Clobber him over the head.
Yeah, doesn't. I don't know. It's fucking
Careful.
gotta be careful with that.
Do not take our advice.
But, right.
never take us seriously. Riding our bikes, staying out until the street lights come
Yes,
on. We talk
yes.
about that all the time, like a rite of passage. Sometimes it was like, don't come back
Right.
or stay outside.
Yeah.
Stay outside. Go
yeah.
play.
Go out.
Get the fuck out of the house.
Yeah.
You can help me clean. Go clean your room or
Right.
go outside.
Yeah.
And
Go
it
on.
wasn't like go to Jimmy's house. It was like go
Go out.
outside the house.
Because Jimmy's mom didn't want you at his house either.
I knew better as a kid than to say those words. I'm bored.
Oh yeah,
'Cause
don't
I
say
knew if
that.
I said that, we lived on 2/3 of an acre, so there was always some chore or something that was going to need to be done.
Wait,
So-
where were you? Where did you grow up?
So I grew up on Main Street, right down the street from the Swiss Hall, around the corner from Spring Creek,
Oh, okay.
from all that area.
Out in
So-
Milgio. Or,
right. Yeah. Right. And so I spent a lot of time. I used to go down before they had all the new housing developments. I could get down easily to the river, and that's where I spent a lot of time
Yeah, yeah.
playing and adventuring. Things the boys did at that age.
All the way through high school. That's where you guys lived. Same house.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah?
much. My parents still live there.
Oh, wow.
Oh, cool.
1970,
That's
so they
sick.
lived like 55 years.
That's
now,
sick.
so it's a lot different now, but
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
So I remember those days. You can go out, go spend the time. I remember one time coming back, and I had been down by the river for a few hours. I was dirty as heck. My mom was upset, not because she was worried about me, but because her and my dad were going out somewhere, and she needed to make sure I was home, so she knew that hey, they were going. She's like, we were worried about you because we need to go somewhere. We need to make sure you were home first. So
Yeah.
it was like because before cell phones and stuff. So
Mhm.
I spent a lot of time out there. I was go out, spend the day, do whatever,
And they would just trust that we would just come
come
back.
back. Yeah, we might maybe
They would just
We
go.
might have been
Fucking
allowed-
we would just come back.
if might have been allowed someone to come in for lunch, to have lunch. So,
Yeah.
but then
Take a
we
shit.
yeah.
Now every kid's got a GPS tag on them, and
Right.
every parent can
and
watch
that's
them on
what
their
I'm
cell
getting
phone,
at.
dude.
And that's what
Yeah,
I'm
so-
saying. We
Like-
have our kids on the phone, and that phone will tell us
Right.
Reese just completed a 12-mile drive, top speed 102.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what?
In 12 miles, we're like, we live here.
I-
Where can you go in 12 miles and do 102
So-
miles an hour? Good Lord.
I remember right after we got Life 360.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
And my daughter was a senior in high school, and my wife texts me one day and says, "Why is Haley leaving school in the middle of the day?"
Yeah.
And my
Yeah.
first thought was, well, I don't know, but it's Haley. She's not the kind of kid that skips school, and it's a
Right.
She's not
Small-
drinking.
right. It's a small Christian school. Everyone's going to know
Yeah.
your business. a few seconds later, before I had a chance to text her back, she texted me and said, "Oh, I forgot she's at chapel." Well, chapel was at the church, which is technically a different address. So Life 360 showed her as leaving the high school and going somewhere else. It's like, wow, she was at chapel. She was doing God stuff, and you were about ready to.
Yeah, you're gonna call her.
So, but I admit, I have. When my daughter first went to college, she's in another state. She wasn't even 18 yet. I did use Life 360 to see, to kind of look, okay, she's back safely in her dorm or whatever.
Yeah, 100%.
And then I'm like, okay, I got to stop doing that. I got to start trusting her. But it was tough because the technology is there. So
It is. I can just watch.
Yes. Back then, our parents, as long as I was within the confines of between our house and Rapona Elementary, about half a mile away, I was good.
Yeah. We have sections of town.
Right.
It wasn't just our yard or
right.
I don't let the kids leave they go in the backyard. I open the blinds and I open the door, even if the air's on, or we have the blinds we have blinds. So just all up. You know what I mean? I want to see them. Right?
Yeah.
Right. Even in our own backyard. I would never tell my 8-year-old girls or my boys, go outside and play and just go.
Yeah.
Go to the school,
out of here.
go down. And they did as they got older, but it wasn't until that trust was built, and it's not always about them. It with my kid, it was right, but it was also about other fucking people,
right? Yeah,
and that's changed significantly, right? Since we've been that age, right? People get stolen more.
The child abduction thing, that's what they got planted in our head now,
right? It went from being on the milk carton to whatever social media stuff. And now they can also and sometimes legit, but they can make it scarier, they can make it sound a lot scarier, which sometimes it is, but
we got our music from the radio. Those guys, the kids today, have it on their phone. They have unlimited music. They can have any song they want,
right?
Any video they want from any age, any era in their pocket.
Yeah, that was one of my punishments for my kids is I was shut off their Spotify account. So they had to listen to ads and they couldn't pick any song they wanted. They hated that shit. You just have to put on a stream and just listen to it. Every 2 songs is a 3-minute ad.
My son, as he has Spotify, and he was upset because he has an allowance. He also does jobs here and there to earn money and stuff, but he likes to pay the money for Spotify. He ran out of money the other day, and my wife told me, "Well, I see here you're spending X amount a month for Spotify to get the. Well, I like the ads free. I don't like to have to listen to the ads and stuff.
It's worth it.
It's worth it.
I guess if you're worth it, if it's worth you paying that money every month, I'm the old guy who's like, hey, I want to save the money, so I'll listen to the ads if I have to. But that's me. But
for like $4 more, you get a family plan. You can put like 5 people on it.
Yeah, well, my daughter has them college plan, where I think she.
You get it cheaper,
free and stuff.
Half for free or something.
Yeah, so,
I listen to that much music. I make money on Spotify almost. I listen to that much music on Spotify. I mean,
gotta have it.
I just paying for it is like when you were saying you shut it off. And I remember what was the other older Pandora. I didn't pay for Pandora, and I remember I'm like, I can't skip, I can't pick, I can make a playlist, but I can't skip through it.
Yeah.
Ugh, fuck Pandora.
You can't
Pandora
pick a song,
sucks.
You can't look up a song.
Right. That's a good
just
punishment.
playlist.
Remember when Napster first came out, and there was the big, I think, controversy about whether it was gonna take away rights from artists and
Metallica.
Just
Metallica.
Just
Lars. Yeah, seriously.
I think
hashtag it should have been Lars.
Didn't Metallica, I think Lars and
they sued them fuckers.
But there was he and another Fred Durst from
Biscuit.
The Biscuit had like a not an argument, but they had a very civil argument about the differences between that, because they were both on, I think they fell on opposite sides.
Did they?
Yeah, because it was the industry was in changing. Everything was going digital.
So, yeah, but we had to get everything off the radio, or you had to go buy the tape, or like I said,
talk your mom into taking you to a warehouse.
Can you give me a ride, and can I have $13.99 for the cassette, right? Or 14, because they were still 13, 14, 15 bucks, right? They weren't like $5 or $6. Singles, you can get like a single for $6.99 or whatever it was, right?
$5.99 EP.
Ask your mom for a ride. Go down there.
Columbia,
we did that.
Yeah, the penny.
I have that. It's right here somewhere.
Right.
Oh my gosh. I think some ink is at my house. Recording music. We never had a perfect song. We had to wait for the song to come on the radio or get a ride down to the record store. Then we're buying that record, or we're buying the tape, and then we just had that. Or we buy blank tapes. Is it still falling on you?
No, I'm just now I'm like, it's psychological, I think, more than anything. So
Sit up straight.
10-2.
How's that look? That looks okay. You can tilt it,
yeah, I'm
like
good. There we
twist
go.
it
That's good.
towards you more. There you go.
Yep.
Yay. So the music was a big deal. We had to
Right.
wait for it to come on the radio. And then once it wasn't popular anymore, that went away. And if
Right.
we didn't have it recorded, you kind of forgot about it.
If
or
it didn't hit the top 40 that week, you were out of luck.
you were
Yeah.
kind of out. And then raise your hand if you just recorded the top 40 on Sunday morning.
Yeah, the whole thing, just
Casey
let it ride.
Kasem.
Yeah,
Yep.
get the whole 2 hours.
Did it more than once. Yeah.
You know how many years I was doing that before I realized they didn't play all 40 songs?
Right.
One day I set out to record all 40 songs. I'm like, wait, they have that many songs. They're about 3 minutes. I just started doing some math. I'm like,
Hey, man, they're not
they
playing.
don't, they
You wouldn't
can't,
have been able to fit that all on one tape
you
anyway.
can't play 40 songs. And then I realized
It was all edited.
they would play a little bit of one or just skip some, or they would,
Right.
yeah.
Come back from
Yeah.
the commercial break, hoping that you'd forgotten where.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Number 36. I'm like, wait, what happened to
number 39?
yes, all those guys and shit, right? So they have their music. They get it. They get it right now. And MP3 is not a bad quality. It's not a bad
Right, no.
quality. It doesn't degrade like records. You don't
Right,
have to keep
right.
an MP3 like this, so it doesn't
Right.
warp,
Right.
but it doesn't have that
Yeah.
the hisses and pops and just that nostalgic sound of like a Led Zeppelin fucking record.
Yeah.
I think there was also some kind of credibility about having the cool collection, that you could physically,
Like
see.
having the tape case full of all the
Yeah.
coolest shit in your
Yeah.
car.
Yes,
Yeah.
the lyrics,
Right.
the art, the album art,
Right.
all
Now
that
it's
stuff.
not even just music. You can basically watch any TV show you want.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
watching the whole series of Three's Company right now. I did finally find Three's Company. It's on Peacock.
Really?
And I'm like,
Right.
I'm on season 7 or something of watching
Right.
through all the old Three's Companies. It's the greatest thing ever. But now you can just go pick an episode, go watch what you want. If you
Yeah.
got the subscription, you can go
They-
watch whatever episode of
watch
anything
whatever,
you want.
yeah.
Have they
so-
dumped Chrissy and got Cindy now?
I'm on
season
Terry.
7?
I'm on Terry now.
Terry?
Terry now,
Yeah.
huh?
Terry was after
the
Chrissy.
second. Okay.
No.
Terry was the replacement for
Terry,
for-
not
yeah.
Cindy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cindy was
Terry.
supposed to be Chrissy's cousin. Chrissy demanded a bunch of money. That's what happened. I
Yeah.
had to look it up.
Suzanne Summer.
Yeah, she wanted to
Because
raise.
Jack Tripper was the star of the show. He was
Right.
making like 30 grand an episode or something like that.
Right.
And the rest of them were only making like 5 grand an episode.
Mhm.
Well, Chrissy went in for one of the seasons today. I want the big money. I'm a
Mhm.
star too. And they said, yeah, see how that works out.
Okay, we got this other
they
chick that
replaced
didn't make it the
right,
first
with
time.
her cousin, no, who was it? Cindy.
Terry.
Cindy was Chrissy's, was like 2 seasons, and then Terry came in.
So there was a Cindy.
Yeah. There was a Cindy.
Okay.
was
She was
like
only for a
3
couple seasons
Yeah.
because the story was Chrissy's mom got sick and she went to go take care of her in Fresno.
Was
So
it?
she moved up to
Right.
Fresno
Up
Right.
to
to.
take care of her
From
mom.
all that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there were a couple of episodes where she was on the phone talking to Janet, something like that. They did a
Right.
little split screen.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She probably
And
got a
then
couple hundred bucks for that.
Yeah,
huh?
they phased her
Oh,
out.
you want big money? Here's 200 bucks.
Direct,
yeah.
Well, you can
We'll
shoot
get a 3-minute.
8
Yeah.
seconds.
Nah, I didn't feel-
Yeah, but that's fucked up. They just fired her over that shit. Yeah,
Yeah.
I read that not
Yeah.
too long ago.
Instant gratification on TV shows now too.
Right,
You can
yeah.
watch whatever movie. I get to the point where I'm sit there, look through Amazon Prime. There's too many choices. I can't. I wish I would just turn something on and whatever was on TV is what I got to watch.
I actually find myself sometimes
I miss the old.
Like, we
TV
have
like
the,
that.
we have some of the streaming services, but we again play less. You get the commercials. I'm like, I actually kind of am nostalgic for the commercials and stuff. I actually enjoy.
I want to get up and go pee real quick and not miss my
right,
shit.
You know,
Yeah,
but
I,
some of the ads are so bad now. I can't
Yeah.
do.
and they're
dumb.
repetitious. They
Yeah,
are repetitious,
and,
but
and there's not enough, especially on the streaming
Yeah.
service. You watch a show, you watch the same ad the whole time.
300 times.
It's
Yeah.
annoying.
I mean, I do like the commercials just because of the nostalgia, but you're right. It's so, but
See, I got a TiVo back in the 90s, so I quit watching commercials like 25 years
Right.
ago.
but oh my gosh, wow. Also, you know, if you missed an episode back then, you had to hope it was, on the summer reruns.
you caught it on the
Yeah.
reruns.
Right. And now it's
Yeah.
just, I'll just watch it whenever.
That's what the TiVo was for. It would just
Right.
record it would just, I sit down once a week, every couple of weeks, and just go, oh yeah, I'll grab that. Oh look, hey, there's that movie.
There you go.
And then sit down on the weekend with my kids and
Mm.
watch old movies and TV shows and stuff I wanted to show them.
Today's kids, they don't know the thrill of like, I got to get to the bathroom or to the kitchen or whatever
Yeah.
and get back before,
I
No,
can make a
big-
grilled cheese before the show comes back on.
Right.
Or calling during a commercial, calling your friend. Did you just see that? Okay, it's back on. Back on. Click.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to talk in the one room with the TV with the rest of the family.
Oh no.
Because we had the one
Right,
TV.
right.
Yeah.
We weren't watching it on our phones in separate rooms.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? That coordination that took
Gosh,
place.
man.
So What are some Gen X things that you just had to be there? Like kids today just wouldn't understand. You just kind of had to be there.
Right in the back of a truck.
There you go. That's a perfect one.
That's
I
a
remember
great
riding
one.
back from camp one year in the back of somebody's pickup truck. Man, you couldn't do that today.
And they're a
That
couple
was
hour
awesome.
trip.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's like 2 hours. We were bumping around and stuff. You know, we were coming back from, I forgot what it was, but it was church camp one year. And so a group of us, like 4 or 5 of us, we got back and they had a camper shell.
Yeah.
But still, man, we no
Well, that's
seatbelts, no
worse.
nothing.
Yeah.
Man. Oh yeah.
Right.
You know?
We had the time of our life. You couldn't do that. You
Oh,
know?
yeah.
Like I said, just going out and not knowing where your kids are all day long. That is something that my kids still kind of like, you know, it's foreign to them. So
Way foreign,
oh
right?
yeah.
So story, Gen X story, you just had to be there. Speaking about not knowing where your kids are,
right.
Mm-hmm. My cousin Mikey, right? He's 2 years older than me, right? He's my big brother growing up, right?
Right.
He had this side hustle that he taught me. We lived in Manteca. We go to the golf course like at nighttime after it closed in the evening, like in the summers, nice and warm, right? We'd go walk around. We necessarily wouldn't go swimming in the lakes of the golf course. We'd go walk around, pull our pants way up, or just have shorts on because it was fucking the 80s or whatever. I was barefoot anyway.
Yeah.
We'd walk the lakes and feel for the golf balls with our feet. There's one.
Right.
We hold them in our shirts like this. There's two. We get all the golf balls back, and there was this long ditch along the side of the whole golf course. We'd walk that ditch too, get all these golf balls. And the whole goal is to go home, wash them right there in the ball washer, right?
Right.
And then we'd sit on the far back hole. There was a bench along the tee spot and all that stuff, right? We'd just sit there and we'd sell the golf balls back to the golfers. And there was always for like, you know, my cousin Mikey always knew how much to sell them for. I didn't fucking know. But the goal it wasn't for cigarettes. It wasn't for weed. It wasn't for anything like that. It was for video games.
Oh yeah.
It was for video games.
Galaga.
We needed 25-cent increments. So it was 20, 50, or 75. And that's how we broke them out. These ones right here are 75 cents, man. Don't let them sell these
Nike
right
balls.
These are this right. This one's got a little bit of a nick right here. This one's got right here.
Right.
This is still a Titleist 2.
Right.
This is a Titleist 2, right? And just or whatever, right?
You
Whatever
acted as if you were the expert on.
Yeah, he
golf
was sitting there
balls.
telling me like, you know, he also knew how to like buy and sell pellets. You know what I mean? And he also knew how to, you know what I mean? So, but that was like that side hustle. It was like that side job. That was, and then finding Coke bottles. We always had a bunch underneath our sink. He had a bunch, and then we knew other people. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
You get a nickel for those.
we got a dime for the fucking
dime,
Coke bottles. Again, we were going for video games.
Right.
That was our goal. We weren't smoking cigarettes yet.
Right.
But in those lakes at that golf course, there was that canal that went along the side of it, but it wasn't like your concrete canal going through Ripon. It wasn't like the siphons. It wasn't like that kind. This was dirt on both sides. And from my memory, right, it was like 10 feet deep. It was like 15 feet wide, but it was just, we went down into it. We didn't just like walk across it and crawl out the other side. We walked down and walked up and down it and then walked out of it. On one end of it, there was this big concrete box with the valves on it, with the big wheels on top.
Right. Yeah.
And then so we get up there, we'd open all the valves would open. We go inside that box, and one valve had one tunnel that went all the way out to one of those fucking lakes. It was the overflow tube or pipe for that lake. If that lake ever filled up too much, it would just drain in there and come out that ditch, right? Well, we fucking crawl in that fucking thing. We walk all the way back. We're doom, 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 doom. It's dark.
Quarter mile,
Yeah, it's dark back here. It's dark, but we can see the light up here now. We pop up in the middle of this lake. We're looking. It's got this greater lid on it. We can see like this, and then we go, and then we go back, right?
Right.
Looking back, if something were to happen, if that would have rusted or fell, or somebody came and closed it,
we were screwed.
it was a wrap, dude.
Right. Yeah.
Ditch tender shows up.
Who was going to look for us inside a fucking box? Not until harvest or irrigation time, whenever season that fucking is. You know what I mean? And this wasn't in a field. This was just our rainy season's what? November to February. And if this was summer, I'm fucked for another 9 months dead.
Right.
You know what I mean? But my mom had no idea I was out there doing that shit. She had no idea I was well outside of my boundaries. I wasn't.
Oh.
It wasn't.
My cousin and I, when my grandparents had an Ammon Ranch out on North Ribbon Road. And so my cousin was the one, God rest his soul, that Jamie was the one that always, anytime I got in any trouble, it was usually because, Jamie was there.
Yes.
But,
I was that cousin.
You were that cousin. Yeah. They had the wind towers in the middle of the the orchards, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So of course my dad always said, don't go up in the wind towers, don't go up there, it's dangerous, it's not men. So what did Jamie and I do when we're out there? Because we were out there,
Straight to
the parents were doing whatever back at the house. They were taking care of business with my grandparents' ranch. So Jamie and I, we go up to the top of the wind tower and stuff. And of course I get up there and I realize how unstable those things really are. They weren't meant to be climbed up all the time. They had the ladder in case you had to get up to fix the, turbine wire. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is scary. So, same thing. If something had happened, if we had slipped or something had happened, we would have been out there in that orchard for who knows how long before they would have found, our lifeless bodies.
The middle of 40 acres of almonds.
Right, yeah. Because it would have been at the end of the day, it was like, hey, where's Jamie and Branden? Why aren't they back here? They would start hollering.
But that was a great spot to sit up and watch a sunset and stuff.
Yeah. It was the coolness of, like I said, because I was kind of that goody two shoes kid that didn't really get into trouble. It was kind of like one of my little acts of rebellion, I guess you could say. So that was cool. I went to thought, wow, this is really neat. We could see all around and stuff.
But it was just a freaking metal ladder going straight up.
Pretty much.
How tall were those things? Like 50, 60 feet or something like that. They were pretty tall.
It was pretty tall, but like I said, they were not stable at all. It wasn't like
you
could feel it swaying. I look now and I think, especially, where I am, I'm like, holy crap, that was stupid.
I'm not climbing that.
That was dumb.
There's a radio tower out on North Ripon Road. That big old tall radio tower. I've been to the top of that.
Oh, wow.
A couple of high school buddies. You guys know them. I won't call them out because we went up there and smoked a fatty at the top, right?
At the top of the...
It was being passed around. It got to me. I fumbled it. I dropped it. All the way down. I tried to stare. I tried to see where it went. And there was a crop field below us at the bottom of it, right? And there was whatever plants. And I tried to count how many plants over, how many rows up, right? Because we had to crawl back down. As soon as we hopped the fence, there's a fence around the bottom. As soon as we hopped the fence, sheriffs pulled up, or sheriffs pulled up. Right. Oh, no, we're looking for my hubcap. We're out in the field, right? We're looking for my hubcap. My hubcap came off, or blah, blah, blah. Never found that shit. So they were mad at me for that. Those two guys.
I never climbed it. The towers and the propeller towers and the almond orchards is the only thing I was willing to climb.
Right, I climbed those.
I wasn't climbing that.
Yeah.
Is Mike Ingle here? I wonder if Mike Ingle's here.
Mikey online?
He'll jump in if every now and then. Yeah. Ingle climbed some of those radio towers with the big bright lights on it.
Right.
Try to get one of those lights off and stuff. And he went pretty fucking high up there. And that shit was kind of scary. So anyways, to wrap this up, basically the whole idea is that what we did as kids, what was available to us, what were the times, what were the trends, of course, has gone away. It's been decades, it's been generations, right? Mm-hmm. But to sit there and kind of look back and to see what status our kids fell into, or and kind of see what they accomplished. If did they have to go through the same kind of stuff we did? Was it completely different? Well, pandemic hit my kids, right? Yeah. And we didn't experience anything like that. Nothing like that at all.
No, everything got shut down. Like if you wouldn't have been able to be a theater kid if you were in high school during pandemic.
No, you were doing reading, writing, arithmetic, right, for a few hours a day at the lowest quality possible. Not knocking anybody who was doing it, but the educating over Zoom. Man. I mean, bless their hearts.
It's difficult to try to get a kid,
You can't get adults to engage over Zoom for a fucking staff meeting. Why would kids do it to learn at their own home?
Second graders.
When their TV and tablet and refrigerator are right there. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And we're still finding out about, on top of that, all the effects, the psychological and mental health effects,
social effects. So I was just showing him a video a few weeks ago about teachers in high school, and he's basically our age. And he's like, dude, if you would have showed up at a high school a half hour before school started, these hallways would be full of kids.
Right.
He's like, but watch, I'm walking in right now, and the hallways are empty. And he's like, all these kids are out sitting in their cars waiting until 2 minutes before the bell rings, and then they'll all come in.
So
it's like all the in real life social stuff is gone.
Yeah.
And he's he goes, I think it has a lot to do with they lost their ability to socialize in person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Through COVID. It's like that's
just
so terrible.
I think that's why I'm grateful for my son doing sports, because he's out there doing a physical activity with a group of people that he's gotten close to. And so you are interacting, you're doing
they're
physical
brothers.
stuff.
You're
You're brothers.
they're
Yeah,
like
you're the
brothers with those
brotherhood.
guys, man.
Yeah. So whether it's football or wrestling or track and field, he's out with a group of people away from their phones for a large period of time. And it's good. It's wonderful. And as much as he'll complain about, oh, practice was so tough today, or we had to do this or that, man, he loves it. He loves it. And I'm really glad because, gosh, man, mental health wise, I know he's been through a couple of events. A couple years ago, he lost a really close friend. So I'm grateful that he has that group of friends to be able to have that camaraderie with and stuff. So,
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes it's hard for us to be that guy for those
Right,
guys, and
yeah.
they got to have someone in their
Right,
peer
yeah,
group that's
In their own group. Yeah.
you know,
because back then, and then this is one thing, and I love growing up as a Gen X kid in the 80s, but sometimes it was like, tough it up, gut it out,
yeah,
you'll be okay,
suck it
you'll be
up.
fine.
Pat, you'll be all right,
You'll be all right,
son.
son.
Rub
Right
some
your
dirt
back.
on it.
It'll be all right.
At least now, they have
Don't let your mom see you're
Yeah.
crying.
exactly.
Yeah.
What you crying for? So, and it's not that our parents were bad parents. It's just that they didn't know how else to deal
No,
with
they
it.
had
So,
freaking boomer parents, so
Right, yeah,
they had
so-
it harder than we
right.
did.
They had it way harder than we did.
So-
That was absolutely children are seen and not heard, and
Oh, man,
absolutely
yeah.
respect your elders, and absolutely just hard, really rigid kind
Right,
of.
yeah.
No, my dad's stories about his dad are way worse than mine.
Yeah. So, oh gosh, man. Yeah.
So overall, I am happy
Mhm.
and satisfied with the school and how my kids are in school and how they kind of
yeah.
carry themselves now. I think it's a tremendous leap from like my experience in high school.
Yeah.
And I think even with the pandemic goofing them, I still think education wise, they still came out good. They can all read, they can all write, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And well too, right?
Yes.
They can, it doesn't seem to have had any kind of what's the word, educational impact on it, but
Right.
maybe social impacts
Yeah.
and other things like that, maybe that shape the way they do communicate or don't, right?
Yeah.
They're absolutely about communicating through phone, but it's not always
Right.
just text, but it's usually like a DM through a certain app. That's how they
Right,
talk to
right,
each other,
yeah.
right? And it's through an app. It's not,
Right.
I do a lot of app communication, but it's something I've learned afterwards. I can write a note, make a football, and flick it across the room to you. Still, you know what I mean? I can text.
That's a skill that I
message
wish my son had. That's a skill that we should be teaching our sons. these
right.
Yeah.
So
days.
for us, we learned social media. It wasn't what we had growing up. You know what I mean? We got to adopt it to whatever degree
No,
we
I
did.
did
It
it because
wasn't
my
always
kids.
part of our life, yeah.
When my daughter was in high school and she got a MySpace, it was like, I better join it so I can keep an
Right,
eye on
yeah.
her.
And I'm like, there are other people on MySpace.
Yeah, and then I was like, hey,
Hey, this
yeah.
is kind of neat.
And then it became part of my job.
I did not have an Instagram account until last year, because all of a sudden my daughter's on, now my son's on that, and so it's like, okay. And again, we talked about rules. That was one of the rules. It's like, hey, you got to allow mom to friend you on those, mom and dad to
Yeah,
friend you on that stuff. But like, oh, I guess I better get on Instagram to figure out,
that's how you keep up with what they're doing.
Right,
yeah,
yeah,
that's
exactly.
why I was
So-
on Snapchat for years, because it was the
Right,
only way I would find out what my kids were. Oh, you went to a concert this weekend.
Yeah, that's how you
Right?
know what they
No,
eat.
yeah, exactly.
It's kind of why we got away with so much as kids, because not everything was posted on social media. So
There's no
there was
fucking
no
evidence.
record. There was no record, no proof. Of a lot
Can you
of
imagine
stuff.
if I had a phone or I had a camera with me all the time and
Right.
taking pictures of that stupid shit?
Right.
Hell no.
Remember the couple days you did bring a camera to school?
I
We got some
did.
wacky shit on video.
We got some good stuff on that stuff, man. We just got to find that video,
Oh,
bro.
Find that tape, dude.
We got to
Mm.
find that tape. I brought a giant VHS camcorder camera
Right.
to school one day, and we had a lot of fun with it.
Whose was
So,
that?
It was Wayne's, my dad.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. Yeah. It was his. We just took it.
I swear, I think I have that thing somewhere.
And looking back, watching that tape, it was our senior year, so we had a lot of rain. We had a lot of free rain in that school. You know what I mean? And especially our senior year, it was a lot of
Dog cam.
We did dog cam. We held it by the strap and then ran around, so it was like this high off the ground. But night, it was smooth because it was by the strap. You know what I mean? And then it would kind of
Steady
flare out
cam.
this way, steady cam and stuff. But I was late to every class.
Mhm.
Because I had the camera and I'm walking around and the bell would ring and I'm just walking into class.
Right.
And my senior year, I looked, one of the things I didn't really notice or until I watched the video was late to every class and nobody said anything, but I wasn't the only one late to every class.
Right.
The same 5 or 6 people were still
Really?
passing. There was Shane over here. There was Pat and Lauren over here.
Right.
You know what I mean? And other folks just, And then I want to say there was a part on there where I catch Mandy, come here. She gathered the fucking the attendance cards, the attendance sheets, right? She was one of them. And then all you had to do was get a hold of Amanda, and if you were cool with her, she'd you take it out, you erase your fucking dart, you erase your absence, right? Put it back in and hand it to her. Thank you, and go to class, Miss Wold's class, and she wouldn't remember. She wasn't gonna pay attention to that stuff. I remember Pete Olmo had him in Miss Starling's class. I think it was remedial English. We had to, we were both taking making up English units or something. So we're like in a freshman English class, and he goes, "Hey, Miss Starling, can I look to see what assignments I'm missing? I was going to work on them this weekend, right?" And she's like, "Yeah, here's the book." And so he takes his book and he's all, he had that look on his face like. Yeah, I'm missing these two. Here we go. Gave me the book back. He filled in a bunch. He took a bunch, but you know what? I had a lot.
Now
of
it's
fun
all
in
electronic. You're not getting away with that.
You're not picking that book up.
There's a record everywhere.
There's a record everywhere, and I want to close with this last little. So we got more stories, but this is. I want to apologize to my 5th grade teacher out there. No, like in all seriousness, I gave that guy a run for his freaking money. He's not with us anymore. He remembered me from way back in the early 80s in 5th grade, whatever year we were in 5th grade. But I ran into him years ago, probably in the last 15 years. I'm with Cindy Southwick, Chucky Southwick's little sister's husband, right? I'm with Chris, and Mr. Talcott. He was the 5th grade teacher. He owned the house next to Chris's mom's house. We go to his mom's house for lunch one day, right? And he's all, "Hey, Mr. Talcott, you remember Jason and I?" And he's like, "My favorite student." Like that. And he's like, "Well, here he is." And then Chris looked at me, like, give me that funny look, and then booked it into the fucking house.
Right.
Chris is a big boy. He's a grown ass man. And he kind of ran into the house, right? And I'm like, I was not nice to this guy. I had nothing to say. Not that I was mad at him, but I knew I'm not dumb. You know what I mean? I know better. And I'm like,
he remembers.
Yo, fuck, he remembers. So I'm like, "Hey, Mr. Tailkite, how you doing?" "I'm doing all right." He didn't get up. "How you doing?" "Oh my God, it's been so," you know. And I didn't expect that.
Right.
I didn't get it.
You didn't get the warm welcome.
No. So one of the things I did to that poor guy, and this is, I apologize for, I've already made my amends to this guy in my own way, but I took his grade book and, you know, the whole thing, because he was a 5th grade teacher. So we were already moving for math class at that time. So it wasn't just homeroom. We switched for math, you know what I mean? So there was, anyways, I took his grade book and I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. I'm not going to pee on it or throw it in the toilet. I'm not going to color on it. You know what I'll do? I'll throw it up on top of the lights that are hanging, the fluorescent lights that were hanging down from, I threw it up there and it stayed up there. And I went to fucking recess. He comes in and I don't know. Obviously, I didn't think this through, right? It wasn't a well thought out plan, but I don't know what I was thinking, what was going to happen after he discovered his, like, it wasn't just going to blink and just come back like a video game or whatever, right? Or cartoon or whatever. He comes back and he's pissed. He's like pissed, and I'm scared. Right? I don't say a fucking word.
He's about to get in trouble with his boss.
I don't say a word. I don't say anything. He said, "Damn it," in front of the kids. He threw some papers down. He was looking around. I know he wanted to strangle me. I know
he knew. He couldn't prove it, but he knew.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I ever told him or I ever came clean. I don't remember the result of that.
No way.
I don't remember. So I don't think I got in trouble. So I don't think I ever told.
It's still up there.
It's probably sitting there. So
it's still up there.
Wow.
So at one point they found it. At some point they had to have pulled them lights out. They had to have changed them
when they switched over to LEDs.
Probably
2 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Gosh.
But I took his grade book. You know how much information is irreplaceable in a grade book?
Yeah,
all of
handwritten.
It. All of it.
Now at least it goes to the cloud when they enter stuff. But then that was the written.
There was no backup.
Right.
Yeah.
He probably did get in trouble for his boss because he couldn't, all that information.
Starting over, depending on what part of the school year you were in.
Right.
I don't know, man. He was my
sorry, bro.
4th grade teacher. No, he was my 5th grade teacher. Phil and I were in that class. I had Phil in that class.
Mhm.
He was kind of preppy with his OP shorts.
Oh,
Yeah, he
oh,
was.
man, the OP clothes, that's a whole nother show, probably.
That's a whole
so.
nother show, man. Yeah, he had the cool clothes, man. He had the cool haircut and stuff.
Yeah.
Phil was cool. I like Phil. That's gonna do it for us tonight, guys. Branden, thank you for coming on.
Thank
and
you, Jason.
hanging
This
out
has
with
been a
us.
blast. Thank you.
I appreciate
bro.
it, man. My name is Jason.
And I'm Greg.
And I'm Branden.
Peace out, everybody.
Nate.
They can't hear it that well on that side. It's kind of, I don't know what happens. It's just not clear. And we are going to end stream. Peace out. Anybody want to jump in real quick? Anybody want to say anything before we go? Anyone? Bueller?
Yola.
I know there's a 10-second line. I got to wait.
Bueller.
Yay. Hour and 17 minutes, folks. We out.
All right.